We are the people! We are the people! We are the people!
If you want to rattle a snake, you must be prepared to be bitten by it.
Did you really bring your mind to bear? Did you really focus and understand what you were doing? So that when you made the decision, you were convinced, whether wrong or right, you were convinced that you understood the situation.
Intolerance. We are brewing intolerance. Ukisikia mtu hataki kusikia upinzani wa chochote, hiyo si nzuri. Hata soka haiwezi chezwa kama timu sio mbili.
We call upon every Kenyan to be tolerant. Democracy cannot operate unless we are tolerant. You tolerate your friend, your neighbor, to have an opinion different from yours.
A lot has been happening in the news. A lot of noise
has been happening or has been reported.
Well,
you see, the news does nothing.
Well, a lot has been happening and it has been reported in the news.
Yes.
And my producer actually told us that maybe it's time to reactivate proactives so that you can make sense of everything that has been happening. With the normal voices, Tim and Elsie away, the producer just told us to make sense of what's happening.
So we hijack it and move on.
So we hijack it, make sense of it.
So should we call it proactive or reactive?
Reactive is not a good name for a show that tries to make sense of the news.
But it's how we all respond to news. We don't. You cannot be proactive to news because news is a notice of what's already happened.
But this proactivity is more of, yes, the news has happened, but there's a lot that we can learn from it.
Oh, so we become proactive about how we respond to it.
How we respond to it.
Okay, see, I just wanted to make sure we are clear about why we've come up with that name. It was not just something you saw somewhere and
because
decided
if you react,
to.
There is this famous joke that Eric Omondi once did, where he said that, you look at the newspaper and by not even reading it, you make sense what you just react to it. You see a picture, Raila is holding his cheek.
Yes.
And they've drawn Uhuru Kenyatta with chest out. Already that causes a lot of problems from some, in some areas. So what you want to do is, let us not read into the image. Let's go inside and try to make sense
of
before this picture was taken.
Okay.
For the last couple of weeks, most of the conversation have been around our president in the US.
Yes.
And all the goodies that he came with. And also the style he traveled to the US.
Yes.
I want us to try and make sense of it.
Which part?
Everything. Let's start off by his visit to the US. It seems to be historic. It's been over 15 years before an African head of state is received.
So the last one was Moi?
No. Kibaki was...
When?
Kibaki was there during Bush's time.
He made an official visit? No.
It can't be Moi. Moi has been away for how long?
He's the last president to go
from Kenya.
From Kenya to make an official state visit.
Okay.
State visit.
Okay. Not just ulikuwa unapitia and then ukapigwa picha.
Na hiyo ingine kupita njia. And we were too busy discussing about how he shall not speak to the joint houses. That I keep wondering, your neighbor shows up and wants to talk to you and your wife, and it's supposed to be a national issue.
What do you mean? Expound on that.
I think Raila did. It's Raila who did, who got to talk to the joint houses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the US.
Mm-hmm.
But Ruto did not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we were using to differentiate that, even though the others were not state visits.
Mm-hmm. They had a chance to speak to
the joint house.
Okay.
Yes.
So what makes Ruto's visit special? If it is?
I don't think there's much. Maybe what we need to ask ourselves is, what is all this about visiting a foreign land? We are not we're not, if he visited England, I'd understand, because that's our former colonizers. Visiting another colony of the British, I don't think is something to really write home about. So why are we writing home about it?
I mean, they are the superpower. They are the global biggest.
Now we
economy.
have like 5 superpowers. It's not even the days when we had 2. When there were 2, now there was an issue. Now there are very many. There's China, there's India.
But I mean, if
Russia is back and it's not even at full USSR capacity.
So this is not something for us to go.
I don't think so. I don't think
about,
yes.
Celebrate and, charter private jet.
No, the chartering of the plane was because the old one that was bought by some other guy is an obsolete piece of equipment. The Fokker.
Okay.
Yeah, we bought a plane from a dead company. That's the conversation we should be having. How did we go and buy an aircraft from a company that was in receivership?
Mm-hmm.
That's where we need to take this conversation. Next time the president travels, he needs a 747, not that tiny thing he traveled with.
It's to cut costs.
No.
Well,
This is the Kenyan president.
But it seems like, he also did that to cut costs.
He needs to stop defending being the president of this country.
Walk me through this. So we have a state presidential jet.
Yes.
Which you're saying was bought from a dying company.
Yes.
Or a dead company.
From a dead company.
Yeah.
Yes.
So which I think we need to look at. I didn't know that.
We need to visit that issue.
Mm-hmm.
We need to revisit that one first.
But then if we do that, then it goes contrary to what you just said. You don't need to defend being president of Kenya.
Yes.
Because he did that when he was the president.
Note. Going on a private jet and telling me that he should use KQ without anybody doing the math to understand why we cannot have our president arrive on a commercial flight. Because really, we have a reputation to maintain. We are who we are. We're not here to apologize for being Kenyan. We steal 1 billion shillings a day and the country does not shut down. I don't think we get this. Do you actually get this when your president stands up and says his people steal from the coffers 1 billion shillings a day?
And the country steal.
How much was the flight? The plane?
10 million.
We steal how much a month? A day?
1 billion.
So he paid what?
10%
of
what we steal
in a day. Can we learn to look at issues holistically?
Yes, but the question, I think the question around the KQ conversation, because technically,
yes,
he got the plane at a discount from a friend. So the same will go by buying a jet from a friend of a dying company.
Yes.
So you're trying to help out a friend, right? Okay. Now, the conversation around KQ, I think we need to take it also bigger.
Okay.
If 1 billion is stolen and spent within the economy,
yes.
This is going to sound rough or come out badly, but it's okay.
You're actually going that way. You're literally going to go down that path.
Because this is the thing.
Yes.
If the billion is... But now we have a situation where that money leaves our economy and goes to build another economy.
Okay.
If you pay more to KQ, I think the conversation should be even bigger. If you pay... Why doesn't KQ have a private jet that can be chartered?
Because that's not their business.
That's not their business.
Yes.
So, but do we have companies in Kenya that do that?
Yes.
So why don't we go?
But not big enough. We do choppers. We are not into long-term planning. Yeah? Mm-hmm. That is why 99% of the people who will travel out of Nairobi today will not pre-book a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because we decide at the spur of the moment to make our way to Kisii or to Maragua. So that's why you can't do very much business with a fixed-wing aircraft. It's choppers are quick movement, and you can land anywhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you want to suddenly show up in Namanga at somebody's wedding. It was not pre-planned. And you want to arrive at the site of the event. So choppers, we have enough people doing choppers, just to answer your question. Mm-hmm. Fixed wing, very few. And one that can do Nairobi, New York, I think we have a few people who have some Learjets and a few Gulf Streams, but it's not the size.
Presidential.
It's not presidential.
So it's more of, let's do this for the image.
To me,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so it was for the image.
Yes.
At least let's agree on that. It had nothing to do with costs. It had
No,
nothing to do with KQ. It had nothing to do with
For KQ, as a shareholder of KQ,
Mhm.
one,
Mhm.
the last thing I want is the president misusing my aircraft.
Mhm.
Yes. Because when he gets on the plane, we are having to carry, most likely we'll be traveling at half capacity. And no one will pay for the extra seats. So to me, his chattering or asking for a plane from a friend was for the good of KQ. People will say, yes, but the KQ and they would have paid here. No, the landing fees would not have been paid in Kenya. The landing fees would have been paid in the US. The fuel would have to have been paid for in the US. The insurance for KQ is paid for in dollars. It's not paid for in shillings. There's no insurance company here that can cover a commercial aircraft. So all these costs will still be in dollars, will still be foreign. So that's what we need to look at holistically. Was it cheaper or more expensive? Not based on reactions. Like you've told me, we should not react, we should be proactive. So let's proactively ask ourselves,
Yeah.
what is the true cost of the two? Yeah. When we have those figures, then we can come back and share it with the idle people of Kenya.
Kenyans are not idle.
We are not.
You need
Okay.
to take that back. We are farmers. We are.
Hey, I did not exclude myself. So I'm extrapolating from my position to the other 52 million Kenyans.
Okay.
Yes.
The means of transport away. Was this beneficial in general?
I understand Microsoft will come and invest 1 billion. I doubt it was at the spur of the moment discussion when they saw the president. That if it was the Tanzanian president who arrived, then the project would have been given to Tanzania. No. All of these things are proactively planned. So his visit must have been symbolic for something. And I think maybe that's what we need to ask ourselves. Yeah. What was the symbolism of him having to go and spend time with, in this age of Zoom and Google Meet.
And working from home.
Yeah. I'm trying to really understand what was the relevance of his visit.
That's an important question. Because really, what was it? Because I mean, all this, we are going to build we are going to extend the expressway. But Biden did not make that decision when.
Yes.
when he saw.
It is not.
You are here. So, okay, what do you want? I mean, it's not chips. It's not like how we are used to hockey.
Yes, or how you arrive in the village.
And then a chicken is slaughtered.
It's slaughtered.
Yeah. Okay.
So we need to look at the world as a bigger entity, and we are part players in that. And we then ask ourselves, what's our position that it was important for our president to travel? And that would be a more intelligent conversation. But instead, we spent 2 weeks discussing a plane. Yeah. I think this tells you something. We are having a serious problem as a country in coming up with topics worth discussing. Yeah. If that's our lowest common denominator, is how much the president spent on his flight, then really we've spent a lot of money. We've wasted a lot of money on education. Yeah. My take.
So the question around the costs of the plane, and there are two ways of looking at this, in my thinking. One could be a distraction from everything that is important for us to talk about. Okay.
Distraction from important things. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, we have the finance bill, which is introducing a lot of different number of taxes and all that. No one is talking about that. At least right now we have a new distraction of UDA wars.
Okay.
And then number two is we're trying to question you say we need to be modest, and then number two, you're spending this amount of money on drop. And I mean, it's not just that. People have been talking about the shoes he's wearing, the belt he's using, the watches, the shirt is. So there's a lot of. I mean, we
what's our concern? The cost or the source?
The cost.
The cost.
I'll say the cost, because I mean, if someone says the president is wearing a 200,000 watch.
Where did he get it?
I didn't go deeper into that.
He might have been helping off a country that's suffering, struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And their watch industry was failing. So as a Kenyan, we have helped that economy to recover. What was the make of the watch? Who sold it to him?
Mm-hmm.
See, these are conversations we need to have. If he's wearing 100,000 shilling belt, if he bought it in Karioko, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So our conversation should not be about the price of the item. It's a fact that he's wearing an item that he could have gotten locally, but he has imported it.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a more intelligent conversation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Going back to my KQ story. But let's continue. You talked about the symbolism. I mean, all these things, all these goodies, the green energy, cash that we got, the amount, the money to fight corruption. These were not all.
Okay.
Why are you laughing?
We were given money to fight corruption.
We were given money to fight corruption.
Okay. And how sure are we that money will go to fight corruption? Which is another corrupt issue.
2 or 3 million to combat corruption.
Shillings or dollars?
Shillings. In dollars is 1.55.
That's peanuts.
I mean, we're still $1 billion.
Seriously. Why are we having conversations about loose change? We can actually celebrate.
Okay, let's talk about this. You sound like corruption is something for us to continue living with it. We need to sort of accept it's part of us. Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the oil that keeps this economy going.
That's dangerous. That's scary for...
No. It's somebody who has misnamed an activity. What is corruption and what is facilitation? See? It depends what side you're sitting. And I've told people, look at it this way. I've gone and I've broken the law. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm driving, I've broken the highway code. I did a U-turn where I should not do a U-turn. Why? I'm in a rush for a meeting. Then a police officer stops me. And he tells me, you do know what you've done wrong. I say, yes, I know what I've done wrong. Then he says, and the charges are X, Y, Z. First, I have to take you to the station, book you, then we meet in court on Monday. Mm-hmm. But I have a very urgent meeting, which is worth $1 billion. Mm-hmm. So I ask him, can you facilitate it so that I pay for my crime, but not with my time? Because my time is valuable. So he says, fine, we can resolve this issue here. Now, to me, the assumption is he will go and plead guilty on my behalf, and then he'll pay my fine, because he's facilitating this activity while I go off to do a bigger activity for the better of this economy. Now, when somebody wants to call that corruption, I get concerned. The US has something they call lobbying. What is it? What is lobbying?
It's when...
Yes? What is it?
I think one of the... When you talk about lobbies, the first thing that comes to my mind...
Yes.
Is there's this good... I think it's a book and then there's a movie. Thank You for Smoking.
Okay.
Where we have, all these lobbies, the lobby company that was really pushing for the tobacco industry.
Yes.
And of course, if you look at it, they were farmers. So without that industry,
yes,
and they were, the
so when they're lobbying, what exactly are they doing?
They're facilitating. Okay, go ahead. Give me a definition.
No, I'm trying to understand. I keep hearing when I go and I take 5 politicians to Malindi on a private jet. Yes. So that when they come back, they have a better appreciation of a certain private bill that I'm trying to pass through Parliament.
Yeah.
The headline is local businessman involved in corrupting politicians. But when an American tobacco company flies a number of House members to Miami to have a similar conversation, you call it lobbying. Chief, let's get serious. Either it applies to all or it applies to none.
Does it make it right?
if it's right in America that you can walk around as a chief corruption officer, because that's what it is. What's lobbying? To me, lobbying is literally influencing a decision. Influencing a decision is corruption.
Can you influence the decision because there's lack of sufficient information? And this lunch, this dinner
provides the information. Insider trading if we're in the stock market. It's all about who is defining the activity.
Okay.
Yes. And for me, giving me 203 million for corruption, what's the budget of the Anti-Corruption Authority?
That's a good question.
So we find out how far this money will go. Yes. And they currently have a budget and they're still not able to put a dent into.
So when we talk, so what I'm hearing you say is, actually there's a Bible verse, Matthew 5:25.
Yes.
If your enemy is taking you to court, become friends quickly before you go to court. Yes. Otherwise, your enemy might turn you over to the judge, and the judge might give you to a guard to put you in jail.
Yes.
So basically, finish up with the police officer before going to the judge.
Yes.
Because the judge will then have to hand you over.
Nowadays, we've got many options. We've got what we call alternative conflict resolution.
But then, Coach, if you're talking about, like you brought up the issue of the US and lobbying and everything. I mean, we saw the other time this Supreme Court judge,
yes,
who in the US who was having all these man of issues because of having a friend who lent him a private jet. Yes, just like our president recently had a friend who lent him a private jet and a truck, and all those things. Because then that, if you look at it, if this person, it's like the issues we've been having with a number of these. I'm trying to remember the name. There's a company that was doing some batteries. And those batteries, because of the chemicals, they were actually having an effect on people.
Must have been chloride.
Mohammed, before he went,
before he joined the party,
yes, he had
made noise on the outside.
Yes, because then when you go to court and you have this judge who's been receiving these amazing watches, amazing trips and everything. I mean, we know how that ruling is going to turn out. And
why?
I think those are the things.
Are you saying somebody cannot still remain objective?
Tell me, can we?
I can.
I mean, we can pick the outliers and assume. We cannot pick, like you said, you can't take yourself and then extrapolate it to the entire country.
Okay.
You've said that.
You thought it was refusing me to do it. Me, I'd done it.
Yes. So that's the thing. Can we? We've seen a lot of things. The other time, Judge Bosire,
yes,
I think he's now former judge.
Yes,
right? He found himself in the same with the Goldenberg scandal.
Yes,
so clearly we can't.
The key question is this,
and even if I can move it further,
yes,
we saw when the former CJ ruled against the government. What did the government do? What did the executive do when they got into power? What did they do? First of all, was to slash their budget.
The question becomes, you mean the judiciary does not have independence?
And he said clearly that there will be consequences for these decisions. Wacha tufike huko, mtaona.
No, that one I think I now remember what you're referring to. What you're referring to was the us being forced to go back to the polls.
Yes.
And the president clearly justified it was not cutting the budget of only the judiciary. It was because we had to have a second election that had not been planned, then the coffers of government were depleted.
I think you are...
No, that is exactly what the president said. I listen to the full picture. I do not listen to the headline. I do not make decisions based on memes, which is 90% of Kenyans.
Yeah.
Yes, he did not punish them for that. Why? We have laws. Their budget is defined in the Constitution. The only way the president could have done that was to change the Constitution. So the fact that the judiciary did not take legal action against the head of state tells you that whatever he did was within
the law.
the law.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's not look at it like people in this country react. No. It was very fair. Yes.
Okay.
So you need to find me some truly concrete evidence of how somebody in authority got compromised. And because we don't know what the alternative his decision would have been if that had not happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'm sitting here with you today. Then in a couple of years, one of us goes in one direction and the other one goes in the other. And somebody wants to use this event of today to claim that I must have influenced your decision down the road. Or you might have this. Why? Because, at one time, the two of you were tight. And I believe the one for the US one is actually there's even more complex one today of one who's been flying a Confederate flag or something. One of the Supreme judges.
Yeah.
And the question is now, can we really trust him to make judgment effectively?
I need you to walk me through this firm position that you have on someone's not being able to be influenced because of previous favors, previous relationships. I want you to walk me through that logic and that psychology in terms of how can you truly be objective, considering one, we're humans.
Okay, if we use that, then what you're trying to suggest is that we must bring up a class that shall be our judges, and we shall keep them clean from anything that could expose them to real life. Is that what you're asking for? Because the only way I can answer your question is if we are saying there is a way we can stop you from ever engaging with anyone who in the future might be put before you for an objective decision.
Can those relationships have an impact on a decision?
They can, but they also, it's not 100% that they will.
Yeah.
So we must then ask ourselves, is the person who we've put into that position that easily compromisable? Then the problem is not the person, the problem is us. We should have made sure that the system does not allow anyone who was so easy to manipulate to make it to such a position of decision making.
I think that I agree. You've answered it quite well.
I'm doing well.
Let's go back to our president.
Yes.
With everything else that he got from the US. And I think we can settle and say those decisions were not at the heat of the moment.
Yes.
Now, what do you think is the symbolism? What is the bigger message the US is trying to send?
Okay. Kenya, one, is an unaligned country. That's what we've based our policies on.
Yeah.
We are non-aligned.
We move forward. We look forward.
We don't align. We align with whoever meets our
interest.
Yeah. So in another 6 months, the president might fly to China for a similar state visit. So really the whole idea of the visits, I think, is not as important as we're trying to make it sound. Mm-hmm. Yes. Because again, even the road they want to give us from Nairobi to Mombasa, what's its relevance?
Exactly. That's a good question. What is its relevance?
Yeah. So are we saying that we can just because he was physically there, then he was influenced, like we are saying? But I want to believe that my president is of strong mind and will, that showing him off is not going to change his decision. And which to me then becomes, on his return, we need to ask ourselves, how many of those goodies were ours and how many of them were goodies for the Americans? They want us to remain a stable force, independent of our neighbors who are falling apart with turmoil. It's nothing new. The Kenyan military is already, I think, in 18 different countries as we speak, doing peacekeeping missions. So which is this additional one? that him going to America changes. We are playing our part as a stabilizing force in the region. And that we've been doing for decades.
Yeah.
So we need to get down to asking ourselves, why don't we just let the president make his trip and come back and move on to discuss things that affect us? Yeah. When you tell me about green energy, our grid has been green.
Yeah.
We're at 92% green. So you don't have to go and put up a data center in Olkaria. You can put up your data center anywhere in the Republic of Kenya.
And you still get green energy.
And you'll get green energy.
Yeah.
To me, it would have made more sense if they took it to Turkana.
There's wind, there's
There's wind and the sun. So why the excitement? So ours needs to be, can we ask the hard questions?
What would be a hard question you'll ask the president?
My hard question is, which of those things you brought do you feel will change the state of the average Kenyan? A data center will not. A road from Nairobi to Mombasa will not. We've already decommissioned that highway with the SGR.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why do we want a dual carriage from Nairobi to Mombasa? For
and
what
it's not
purpose?
Even busy either way.
It's not busy. Yes.
I mean, immediately after Athi River,
it's dead.
It's dead.
So really, to me, we should be doing a highway.
From Lologo moving forward.
Yeah. So those are the issues we need to start, conversations we need to start having. As a people, we are getting ourselves too involved with petty conversation. And we need to stop it. And the president needs to stop participating in it as well.
And that's what I'm going, and that's the question
Yes.
that I asked, like the option that I gave you is, are these conversations there by design to keep us from having the real conversations that we need to be discussing? Like, how will this visit? I mean, right now, we're having all this noise around Mogoka. We're having all this noise around Deputy Gachagua and Ruto not seeing eye to eye.
Yes.
All these are everything being discussed, but no one is talking about how are kids going to go to school? How are we going to improve our education system? How is the average Kenyan's life going to be impacted, like you said?
If you're telling me that a simple headline will change our narrative for the day, then for me the problem is us as individuals.
Okay.
Yes. I will not change my narrative because of a headline, apart from today's headline. Today, Business Daily, on the 31st of May, 2024, is very positive. It says interest rate on fixed deposits goes up. And for some reason today is when no one is discussing the Business Daily headline.
It's not catchy enough. People don't have savings.
I do. No.
I mean,
the question
people
becomes,
don't have money to save.
Who said?
People don't save.
Who said?
You, Chumi, coach, with all the taxes and the cost of living going up, who's saving?
The cost of living, and that's why I like.
No, I want you to continue.
I like a conversation about something called inflation.
Yes.
Inflation literally is telling you every day prices will go up. So how do you expect it to stop?
But I don't want us to be distracted. We'll dedicate an entire episode on inflation and the cost of living.
But you're the one who brought up the cost of living.
No.
I was telling you how positive today's headline was lovely.
To the business daily.
Yes.
Okay, it was lovely because of the interest rate going up.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And to me, if we are going to change our narrative for the day based on a headline, it should apply both to a negative headline and a positive headline. Then that tells me we are dealing with people who have a certain level of intelligence. But from what you're telling me that literally we can be distracted, although this is literally just a few Kenyans on social media, the rest have not even seen the newspaper.
But we've read the newspaper through the reactions of others. And that is the biggest challenge we do have.
Now the question becomes is that why are we giving those few so much leeway to define what our narrative will be in the day?
So this is what I'm reading. Are you trying to say that things are not as bad as people think they are?
Yes, things could be much worse.
So things are bad but not worse.
Things could be worse. I think the question becomes is that, are we looking at this at half full or half empty?
Give me your perspective. Let me. I want to unwrap why you feel things are.
I believe that with time, things will change. Okay, my demands will increase for certain things, and therefore, for me to meet those new demands, I need to generate more. But here, what we have is people want to increase this demand without having to work more. That's where our problem really lies. It should go hand in hand. I believe I've had this conversation where somebody says, we agree on a salary on the 1st of January. Say, fine, I'll pay you 50,000 shillings. Over the next 12 months, you go and adjust your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. But your productivity is the same. But in January next year, you want me to increase your salary. But you have done nothing to improve your productivity. Is that fair? So it's the same thing. What we're crying about is what? First, we're saying our farmers are being frustrated. So the government goes and says, fine, let's increase the producer price of milk from 22 shillings to 30 shillings. What's the ripple effect? Tomorrow when you go to buy your milk, it will be
higher.
But to the farmer, haven't we sorted out the farmer's part?
And this is, I think we've had this.
Yes.
What is the advantage of, yes, the farmer has gotten more income.
Yes.
But that increased income is also competing with increasing cost of the bread that is going to need to take it with tea. So it's basically making money on this side.
No, the tea goes up, not the bread. The bread has no milk.
But then we have also wheat farmers.
Yes.
They also cry the same. And now, which means for the wheat farmers, we'll do the same. So which means you're basically taking one hand from here, giving it to this other side. So you've really not increased your income. You just increased your income to meet a new expense that was increased because we wanted to give the wheat farmer.
But note, you're the same person who wanted the wheat farmer to stop being frustrated. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You as a consumer, note, you as a consumer have gone out of your way to increase the cost of living.
I don't get. I don't.
No, look at it. The farmer never came to complain. Mm-hmm. It is somebody sitting in an urban area who raised the concern. True or false?
Mm-hmm.
About the plight of this farmer.
It's some startup.
So when he was raising that issue, they should have asked themselves, what is the effect of that farmer being paid more to my life? So I come to you, the solution should have been, is to now go and ask yourself, fine, if the farmer is getting paid, say 5,000 a bag, okay? Yeah. So we should ask ourselves first, what is his production cost? He comes and tells you, my production cost is 3,500.
Yeah.
So the conversation should really be, how can we get your production cost to go from 3,500 and come down to 2,000?
Yeah.
That way I've increased his revenue without increasing
his cost.
The cost.
The cost on us. Yeah.
Yes.
Consumers.
On consumers.
Yeah.
And that is what to me is an intelligent conversation.
So you think what the president is doing with fertilizer and everything was the right direction?
Partly.
Okay.
Yes. Because at the end of the day, what he's doing, he's given subsidized fertilizer. Yeah. He'll increase production.
Yeah.
Then we'll have a glut.
Yeah.
Then the prices will drop. Down. Yeah. We need to learn to look at things holistically. We need to stop dealing with symptoms. Yeah.
That's a good... Makes sense all the way up to there.
Yes.
In terms of, if you look at it from the economic and the math and everything, it adds up.
Yes.
But then when you're running a business, it's people, profit, process. Did I get that right? The 4 Ps. Is the 4 Ps?
I know the 4 Ps are price, something.
So we have this factor of people.
Yes.
So the concept was good. Let's increase let's try to reduce the cost of fertilizer. Let's try to reduce the cost of production. Let's subsidize production, in the words of the president and the entire UDA brigade.
Yes.
Let's subsidize production so that, like you said, we get the glut. Then of course, if the supply is higher than the demand, automatically the laws of economic the laws of economy will
apply.
Be taken. But then we have the people factor, whereby we ended up having things like people selling soil in the name of fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer.
No, I thought it was said it did not happen.
I thought I heard the president in the US saying that he's going to compensate any farmer who bought that.
Now show me a farmer who did. There are no farmers who bought that soil.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah. It never left the depot. You see, we are saying our theft. We are looking at the theft from the wrong place.
Are you saying whatever the uncensored uncovered was?
Oh, he uncovered soil being put into bags.
Yeah,
and the bags
with NCB,
were delivered to
NCB,
the National Cereals and Produce Board.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
The person who had packed the soil was paid.
Yeah.
Okay, but the soil never left the depot.
Okay.
That is why when the president says, "I'll compensate anybody who can show me proof that he bought or he was supplied with a fake fertilizer." Now, our conversation should be to go and look for the person at the National Cereals and Produce Board who paid for the soil. Now, you see, we've gone off to think about, I don't know, the harvest will not come through. So the government comes and tells you, just show me who was injured. If there's no one who was injured, that's why there's no harm to the CS. Because the question was, you told me farmers were injured. But when I ask you to bring me the farmers, you have none.
But even if there's no farmer who went forward and raised the claim.
Yes.
By virtue of the fact that we are using that as an argument for the fact that taxpayer money was paid for soil, just because we've not raised it, but taxpayer money was used to pay for soil, I think that in itself, entire brigade.
No, I disagree, because principle is this. How much was paid for the soil? How much?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the LPO? Was the LPO for fertilizer or was the LPO for soil?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The LPO could have been for stabilizer. No one has shown us the LPO.
Okay.
No one has showed us who was supplied. All we are shown is a guy filling bags and delivering.
Yeah.
Who says NCPB can't buy soil? We had an issue the other day when some Israelis were shipping out shiploads of soil.
Mm-hmm.
So how come I didn't hear anybody complaining that somebody was going to be fed with soil in Israel? Why? Because Israel wanted the soil to mix with their sand.
Yeah.
So NCPB might have had an area where they're going to work where most of the soil is sandy.
Okay. That's all assumption though. So
you see, all of us are working on assumptions. For me, what I'm
assumptions.
saying is that how you solve my position, how you argue against my position is you show me evidence of what was ordered by NCPB and you show me evidence of what was delivered.
Okay. So while in the monumental state visit,
yes,
there is one of the people who were in attendance.
Yes,
actually raised that concern to the president directly, and he told him, "I bought fertilizer worth 200,000."
Yes,
and he was told to. This is what the president said: "We are going to compensate each and every farmer who bought the fertilizer." But you're saying no farmer has ever come forward.
Yes,
to say, "Here's the fertilizer."
Here's the fertilizer I bought. And if you're a farmer,
mm-hmm.
I'm sure you know how to tell fertilizer. True or false?
This was a new.
If there's somebody, let me tell you, if there's somebody who does not experiment, he's a farmer.
Because he has to wait for 6 months.
Yes, to know about the outcome of his experiments.
Okay. And if he was wrong, what to attend a shule?
Yes. And we'll know. We'll know.
Okay.
You remember there's a time, and I'll take you back. There's a time when a governor went and supplied seed to his farmers in his county. And then it failed. And then everybody rushed to go and harass, they are called, they used to be called Kenya Kari. They're now called Kalro.
Mm-hmm.
And Kalro literally presented, they said, when the fellow asked for the seed, he was told, please note, the following seed is not optimized for your region. And the issue ended. So really it was now for the farmers in that county to deal with their governor.
The governor.
Well, let's not turn it into a national crisis. We have laws and processes for dealing with an errant governor. Deal with him.
I don't want to turn this show into yellow tape. So
there's another one. Okay.
So I want us to go back to the visit. So we need to get answers. And Ngugi wa Thiong'o, the renowned author, actually, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at his open letter to the president.
Why would I? The guy is an escapist.
He ran from...
What? The rest of us stayed.
He went to exile.
Why?
The president, the then president was after him.
For what purpose? 90% of us couldn't read in those years. You know, today I'd understand if you harass a writer. Those days, how many of us were literate enough? And 90% of his books were in vernacular.
We can't, I think the argument cannot just end there. Just because we could not read. I mean, ideas are how we transform a society.
Yes, but the ideas have to get down to them.
Yes.
If the ideas just sit in a book in a library, how do they
Someone
change
could read. The
Who?
teacher could read.
Who?
I mean, I read Ngugi wa Thiong'o's book when I was in school.
You're young.
Yes.
How many years after Ngugi had taken off?
Yeah, substantial amount.
But you read the book.
Yes.
So it means the book was not banned.
Yes.
So the ideas were left behind.
Yes.
So why harass the person if we're allowing his ideas to flow?
But then the question is, at that point, I mean,
Which point?
a lot of people went exile.
How many? We can name them and they all came back.
And they all came back.
Except that one.
Found comfort somewhere else.
Thank you.
But the last time when he came,
What?
the time when he came during Kibaki's time.
No, you don't want us to go there because that one is a very controversial.
There's a story more.
There's a deeper story to it.
I'm going to read you the letter.
Yes.
And then
And his son actually did tell him off for exactly that event.
Okay.
Yes.
The images of your recent state visit to the USA disturbed me and every patriotic Kenyan. I saw you seated on a chair, grinning, while Biden stood behind you, his face beaming with satisfaction. Why not? He had just announced that you had signed off our beloved Kenya to make it a non-member ally of NATO. In other words, you agreed to become NATO's errand boy. So that's the first paragraph.
Yes.
In America's struggle with Russia and China to access the continent's resources.
Okay.
He goes further to say, Ruto, do you know that NATO murdered Muammar Gaddafi so that Libyan oil fields, which Gaddafi had nationalized, will revert to the West? Gaddafi was once the chair of AU, of which Kenya was a founding member.
Let's start with his opening statement. What does he say?
The images of your recent visit,
Mm-hmm.
your recent state visit to the USA disturbed me and every patriotic Kenyan.
So is he
Don't go
telling
there.
me? No, we start there. We have to start at his opening statement.
Okay.
He's not Kenyan for all intents and purposes. He has not been on the ground for how long? And then he wants to claim to be a patriotic Kenyan. Patriotic Kenyans are in Kenya. We are here dealing with borders and matatus and policemen. And no, he cannot take the high road on that issue.
Okay.
1. 2, we have always been the West's errant boy in Africa. We were built to be the errant boy for the West in Africa. There is a reason why the average Kenyan is of above average intelligence in comparison to other Africans. We were to be the errand boy because we had nothing else to offer the West at that point, apart from good weather, polite people, and the right location. That is it. So we need to go back to the creation of Kenya in the first place. What was its purpose? Ask yourself. Dekwa, who is now at Safaricom here, where was he before? He was in charge of Diageo in West Africa. The West Africans, 350 million of them, could not find one person to run Diageo. They had to come to Kenya and find a Kenyan to go and run it. So we are by default the errand boy. So Ngugi needs to go back and read his history.
That is very disturbing.
It is not. Accept your job and move on. When we went into Somalia, if you remember KDF going into Somalia, what happened soon after?
Amazon joined in.
Who had refused to go in all that time.
Yeah.
And there's a statement by somebody who, I need to find this state. Somebody needs to stop deleting things from the internet, where it was said that Kenyans have expansionist tendencies. And we were paid off for the amount of revenue, the money we spent going into Kismayu.
Uh-huh.
But why did we even go into Kismayu? Did we need to?
No.
The issue we were trying to stop happened in Westgate. Where's Westgate? In Mogadishu. Where is it? In the center of Kenya. How did those terrorists get to the center of the country? But as we go and invade them in their home. We have other broken systems, which we're refusing to address. Yeah.
But then even the Westgate saga came way after us going to Kismayu.
No, that's why we went to Kismayu.
No. We went to Kismayu during Kibaki's time.
No.
No.
The KDF will search and check.
Yeah. So we went to Kismayu around the time when ships that were coming to Africa
were being attacked.
And that was arguably affecting tourism.
How many of our ships were going through Eden, Cape of Eden?
But isn't that the mouth? I mean, when things are coming from the canal.
Our tourists usually come the other way.
No, there's the canal.
No, most ferries don't go through. The cruise liners go through Southern Africa.
But anyway, because for them to come to Westgate was more of a retaliation. But we had, because we went to, I remember
just check when we went to Kismayu.
We went to Kismayu during Nani's time.
Was it Kismayu? That's when KDF went in?
Yes, that's when we went in.
Let's confirm this so that we then are on the same page.
Yeah. KDF, Kismayu. As keep going. I want you to keep on pulling the curtain on the errand boy.
On the errand boy narrative. Okay. You'll tell me this is conspiracy. But we sent 5 Kenyans to the ICC who never met the minimum requirements to be there.
Yeah.
But yet the case still went on. Even when the prosecutor, Ocampo himself, told the judges, this case does not meet the threshold. But still it went through. And all the 5 were sent home. In the process, the question is what we never asked ourselves is, why? Similar to what the ICC has just done, issuing arrest warrants on Benjamin Netanyahu and whatever, was what had happened. They had issued arrest warrants on Dick Cheney and I think 4 or 5 American generals for crimes against humanity in Afghanistan. So we went, that's how far we will go to do our errand work. We are thorough.
Are you saying we went to that extreme just to question,
yes,
to bring questions on ICC?
On the ICC, yes.
To question its...
No one asked who paid for the flight across African capitals of the 2 as they went to look for support against the ICC.
No.
And that is why I say, until we learn to look at, join the dots, We need to be very careful.
Why would the US want us to go to that extreme?
Because the US are not signatories to
yes, they're not signatories. So
Yes.
why would they? So which means by virtue of them not being signatories,
They could do nothing themselves. We could arrest them if they were outside the United States
okay.
and deliver them. So 4 or 5 European countries have said if Netanyahu lands,
Yeah.
they will deliver him to
The ICC.
the ICC.
So the whole post-election, are you trying to tell me Kenyans lost their lives just to...
Kenyans keep losing their lives because of their misbehavior. Let's not. We have lost lives for much less.
I don't think you're going to publish this episode.
Then we're wasting time. Because, let me tell you, somebody made it seem like it was a major issue. And even if you look at the post-election violence issue,
Yeah.
and I've kept on saying, the 2 of the people who were sent off as primary suspects were not presidential candidates.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 presidential candidates of one, Emilio,
Yeah. Mwai
Mwai Kibaki.
and Raila Odinga. Mr.
Jaramogi, yes,
Jaramogi's son.
yes,
Yeah.
was either of them at The Hague?
No.
Why not? Taylor was taken to The Hague.
Yeah.
He was president.
Mm-hmm.
The guy from Congo the other day was vice president. Why did we pick up 2 campaign leads to take to the ICC?
Are you trying to tell me that all the evidences, everything, including the journalist, all this was like people sitting down and
To stage
scripting?
manage the same way. And I think I
Nah.
like what Kagame now said the other day.
Yeah.
Because of his position, a whole team of 50 journalists have been aligned to malign the country.
Mm-hmm.
It can be done.
So just proper long-term thinking.
Yes. So you ask yourself, we have lost more people in other elections than we did in 2007. None of them led to what happened with 2007, which then comes back to what I told you about Soros.
Mm-hmm.
How far can Kenya be pushed before it breaks? We still don't know. We have never broken.
In 2011, Kenya launched an incursion into Somalia,
Yes.
Operation Linda Inchi. In 2012, Kenya joined the AMISOM. From that time, the KDF has occupied the southern Gedo region,
Okay.
Somalia. So 2011. So this is during Kibaki's time.
Yes.
Actually, this is his first.
So what are we doing in
No.
Kismayu?
I mean, I thought the expansion, we were expanding, moving towards Kismayu.
So
our entry point.
why?
That's a good question. I mean, like,
You talked about ships. There are no ships by that point.
Mhm.
The ships have been hijacked further up.
so why did we go for this war? Why was this war important to us?
What was our conversation?
Errand boys.
Thank you.
But this other picture was no less disturbing. While you were inside the White House, Haitians were in the streets demonstrating, calling you a slave. Do you know the history of Haiti? Please read the Black Jacobins written by Jomo Kenyatta, by once Jomo Kenyatta Pan-African ally, C.L.R. James, which goes to what we're talking about with the Somali. Haiti, now a black people's state, used to be a slave colony of France, but led to, that's a complex word. Haiti, the wealthiest colony of its time, fought French slavery. And in 1804, it gained independence. In USA, slavery was then full bloom. America did not want its African slaves to emulate Haiti. And it has never forgiven Haiti for that. And thus began the story of America's destabilization of Haiti. Why are we going to Haiti again? I mean, we are way far. we are way less resourced.
Who said?
Well, I mean, financed. Like, if you look at our,
We're being financed to go.
if you look at our military,
No,
and
it's
even
our police who are going.
if you look at even our police,
Yes.
and you compare even with the FBI or even the SWAT SWAT team of the US, which is just down there. It's just like a neighbor, like Mukwapo too. Why are we flying all the way for a war that?
Dixon, I'm going to pull the age card here on you.
Okay.
There's a generation that does not really know who their own country is. Okay. When I was much young, I remember a conversation about who are the top intelligence countries in the world. The first is Mossad. The second is MI5, MI6. The third is a Kenyan one.
NIS?
You can give it whatever name you want to give it. It has morphed multiple times. But that is how good we are when it comes to intelligence. Never doubt the intelligence of your country. Nothing, I can tell you, short of you farting in the toilet, that this government does not know you have done. Yes. The reason we are sending our police to Haiti is because we do have the capacity to identify what the issue is and provide a solution. We have it. We had Ngugi. What happened? Vanished.
Yeah.
You're safe. When was the last time? Fine, we keep hearing of young men being shot and whatever. Then some guy shows up and tells us it's, what do they call it? Ultrajudicial, extrajudicial.
Killing, yeah.
But soon after that, there's peace in the area for the next 15 years. It happens everywhere. We have an intelligence network that works. And that is why we are in Haiti. Because the Haitians need first-class intelligence, not mediocre FBI and CIA meddling. So, as chief errand boy for the West, we have been fully equipped to carry out our tasks.
What I'm struggling to get is like how comfortable you are with this whole... So all this drama about, all this noise about Independence Day, celebrating Republic, what do you call it? The one we just celebrated in May, Madaraka Day, Independence Day.
Yes.
Then next week, tomorrow, we are celebrating another one where we became a how do this holiday go? When is first is?
I don't know.
First is Independence.
I just know it's a bad one. We need to have these holidays on last Friday of the month and first Friday of a month, so that it ends up as a long holiday. Now, how do you have a public holiday on a Saturday? It's a wasted public holiday. Back to you.
Yeah. So I think tomorrow we are having Madaraka Day. Is it Madaraka Day? What do we celebrate in 1st June? I think it's Madaraka Day.
Okay.
And then we have...
Do you see how bad it is? You don't even know.
Then we have Jamhuri. Let me just...
Should you really be exposing yourself like this? Lucky for you, you can edit this out. No, you have to check.
No.
If you're a patriotic Kenyan, like Ngugi wa Thiong'o, you would know what tomorrow's holiday is. And I hope tomorrow when I look for Ngugi wa Thiong'o,
he'll know.
He shall be celebrating
Madaraka Day.
Madaraka Day.
Besides my ignorance on this.
Yes.
The whole concept with Mau Mau, the whole thing with having an Independence Day where we celebrate and we parade our military.
Why? And they never fought?
Now we are...
No, they never fought. They fought against the same military. The Mau Mau you mentioned it. We're fighting about the same military. Yet who are celebrating the day? Who are celebrating?
The people who fought them. The people who fought the Mau Mau.
So
are you telling me this whole... I don't want us to lose this.
The errand boy narrative.
The errand boy narrative. Where we are saying... So what was this? Did the likes of Dedan... Was it all to waste, or was also that staged?
Yes. Why was Dedan hanged but Kenyatta jailed?
He wanted true independence.
Yes.
And the other one went.
Why was Biko
and Mandela
assassinated, but Mandela was jailed? We need to look into our histories.
Are you saying prison is another form of school?
It's a form of school and a way of protection. You see, the fact that you're in prison does not mean it's because we are securing you from doing harm to those outside. We could also be securing you from those who are outside. And that is why Mandela stayed in, and that is why Kenyatta was jailed.
We need to pull this curtain. We need to pull these, just unwrap this a bit more. This onion is very teary, so we need to
leave it aside until we stop tearing.
Leave it aside for now. I think we need to have a proper conversation on the yellow jacket or this whole independence thing. Because then, are you saying Africa all this time? Are we lying to ourselves?
The fact that you celebrate
calling ourselves a republic.
Yes. So long as we continue to celebrate a foreign instigated holiday, then we are confirming that we were never independent before the white man came. We are discussing an Africa passport. For what purpose? Europe has a single passport. I had a single passport for ages. The US is only starting now. There are how many states in the US?
50 plus. 54.
Thank you. How many countries in Africa?
54.
Have you had somebody going from California to Washington needing a visa and a passport? But you're here busy telling me for me to travel from Kenya to Kampala, I must show proof of my skin should be sufficient proof that I'm an African and I'm in Africa. So I should walk around as I wish. You have announcements. I don't know. If you're in the West, you can pick up your visa in the air. If you are an African, you must show up in a consulate 60 days before you travel and show me proof of 62 vaccinations for illnesses that never affect any of us. Whooping cough, yellow fever, green fever, monkey fever.
Well, that's the problem is even worse that just being in Kenya, to access some buildings, I need to provide an ID.
Yes. Because no one trusts you. These are the petty issues we need to deal with.
Why are we dealing with Haiti then? If we have small problems like entering a government office, I need a national ID.
It tells you how effective our system is in keeping us in check.
What do you mean? You need to expound on that.
That act of you agreeing to leave your ID is confirmation that we have a system that can subjugate you. The Haitians are misbehaving because no one has subjugated them. So now we will go in, we will tell them to ask people to use IDs to get into buildings. We will ask them to get certain documentation to do certain things. If you want a mobile phone, you must show proof of citizenship. And over time, you comply. Or you sleep hungry.
Ruto, do you see the irony of your actions? The USA was originally a settler colony that took over land belonging to Native Americans. In 1776, the white settlers, this is quite funny, the white settlers seized the independence of their England king.
Mm-hmm.
However, the colonized Native Americans remained colonized. Kenya was equally a British settler colony. The white settlers wanted to have a similar kind of independence, but the Mamau, led by Dedan Kimathi, stopped them. Years later, Algeria, Rhodesia, and South Africa followed Kenya's example. Thus, the country you now lead was the first to stop the historical trend of white settlers claiming themselves independent as in America, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. Ruto, you have chosen to betray the history of pride. Ruto, you have chosen to become an agent of the West. Ruto, oh, those are so many Rutos. You have chosen to sell your country cheaply. Why? Oh, why?
That man is going senile. Was Kenya the first country to become independent in Africa? So why are we making it seem like it blazed a new path? We didn't. It is clearly known that the only reason why we even ended up getting our independence was because of the Second World War. The British had run out of resources. He then goes ahead to call somebody a Native American. Why? He should have said the Americans were overrun by the European settlers. But he even goes ahead and now wants to put a prefix on the owners of the land. He is as much a sellout as the rest of us, wearing trousers. Ngugi has no leg to stand on.
So you think all this is
Sideshow.
toss it, throw it
Yes.
away, and
While the president was in the air on a chartered plane, the maize was growing, the cows were giving milk, the chickens were hatching.
the reason why I brought up Ngugi's letter
Yes.
is because we were at the point of everything the president came back with was already pre-agreed upon.
Yes. So he didn't have to travel.
He didn't need to travel, right?
Yes.
I mean, he could easily send the ambassador.
Now let's assume that all those goodies were sent without him traveling.
Yes.
Would Ngugi still have written his letter?
No. So that's what we're looking for. What was that symbolism? Because we're looking for that symbolism. We don't have an answer for that symbolism. And that is what we're looking for. And Ngugi was kind enough to give us his interpretation of that.
No, I don't think Ngugi has said anything.
He's given us what he's given his perspective.
No, he's giving us what he knows in his history, what he teaches in class, which pays his bills.
Okay.
Yeah. His statement now just means, I'm telling you, follow up with him.
Mm-hmm.
He has 5-6 speaking engagements next week,
Mm-hmm.
each of which will pay him about $10,000-$20,000. So Ngugi's at work. He has no interest in UI. And that is why I will dismiss him with what's the term?
Which one?
There's a word for you. Dismiss him with what's that? How can I forget this phrase?
Which one? You can touch him.
No, with how you dismiss somebody. You dismiss somebody with okay. I'll find it'll come.
Find it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Because to me, I don't think he said anything. A Kenyan sat on that chair before.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, called Obama. So I don't know what the issue is. Ngugi did not raise an issue when Obama sat on the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Obama is a Kenyan. You can say whatever you want. It is your genes that determine who you are, not where you grew up.
Yeah.
Yes, so why didn't he complain that Obama was an errand boy for the whites who replaced the Native American?
But something interesting that I've picked from the letter, and it's something that you are alluding to, was the whole independence thing. Because the Native Americans, like Ngugi calls them, they were technically Indians and others who we don't know, because the US is quite a huge state.
Yes.
So we might have not have captured everyone.
Yes.
And how did George Washington, which is a very white name, end up leading an independence against?
What is independence?
Becoming able to sustain yourself. Every US president, once elected, they have to go back to the UK to meet the king and meet the queen or whoever
Is in charge.
is in charge. Right
Yes.
now it's the king. What's the significance? We do that all the time. Actually, we go, all of us, the 50 of us,
And we're put in a bus.
put in a bus.
Only one guy refuses to get in the bus.
Yeah.
Yes, who now has 50 journalists sent out to deal with him. This number of 50 seems to have some relevance. We need to think about it, some significance.
Yeah.
The US, for all intents and purposes, is a former colony of the British Empire. Kenya, for all intents and purposes, is a former colony of the British Empire. So for one leader of one former colony going to visit the leader of another former colony should not be anything to write home about. Because it means it is the same boss who has sent one to visit the other.
So these are the things you say that sound very
Out of this
conspiracy.
relatory.
Yeah.
No, this is not but look at it. documented evidence. They do it, isn't it? Yeah.
So if when our former colony
Yes.
came,
Colonizer.
former colonizer,
Yes.
when he came,
Yes.
and was given a red carpet on red soil,
Yes. And then he walked off it.
yeah,
And he left the Africans to walk on the carpet.
yeah.
Yes, because he owns the soil, them they own the carpet. If you're looking for symbolism, it's everywhere. It's
Are we
everywhere.
reading too much? I mean,
Yes, we have that's why I told you we are idle. We have too much time to be thinking about what the president flew in, who he sat in front of, who he sat behind, who he met with, without joining dots. If you're not going to join the dots, then leave it alone.
and this is going back to what you said in terms of us being errand boys, us being, an intelligent country,
Yes.
and all this by design. And I'm just wondering if was this intelligence limited to just a few other things, and we could not. So either it was limited, or one of us is not intelligent. Because if you are able to join this, you're saying like you're looking at all this. So when King Charles came to Kenya,
Yes.
what did we miss? Some of us went all ballistic saying, oh, why would we give a former colonizer, someone who caused us pain and all these, states.
Yeah. Caused who pain? When he arrived, what were we doing?
Mm-hmm.
When our colonizers arrived, what were we doing?
I don't even remember.
We're sitting outside our huts waiting for the sun to set.
Oh, okay, you're talking about the historical.
Yes. Now that's the person who should complain.
Okay.
The minute that person accepted to remove his kanga, his back cloth, and put on trousers, the rest of us have nothing to make noise about. The West, we move on. He came to say thank you for feeding the UK. I don't know why we didn't get that part of it. We're one of the largest providers of food to the UK. But we only discuss flowers. He knighted the owner of Homegrown. Why?
Homegrowns do flowers, right?
No.
They used to, though.
Fresh produce.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Flowers can be fresh produce.
No. Those are ornamentals.
Okay.
Yes. You're confusing with Osirian. Osirian was the one that
does flowers.
Does flowers. Yes.
Okay. I want to read something I picked from.
Hopefully not Ngugi wa Thiong'o again.
No. This is from Foreign Policy.
Which country?
Foreign Policy. There's a publication.
What's its origin? Which part of the world? I need to know so I can have.
It's the US.
Okay. So another one from another colony. Yes.
Well, I need to get something from the economists.
Why don't you get us something? Yes, get me something from the economists. Yes, something from our colonizers. First-rate information, not second-rate.
So the question is, so we've talked about the things we are getting as a country from the US, and you're saying those things we were getting either way without the visit, right?
Yes.
There is a deeper question that we also need to answer.
Yes.
If we are getting something,
what are they getting in return?
Giving? Okay. So one is, if you know what Ngugi has said, which you're not going to talk about, you've spoken about that. I want to quote something from this Foreign Policy. And one of the things that they were citing as America benefiting from this relationship is building a resilient economy that can withstand geopolitical shocks. Okay, let me read that again. Building a resilient economy that can withstand geopolitical shocks cannot happen in a vacuum. So this particular quote is the whole idea behind the US trying to build a resilient economy, and of course with things like China and Russia coming up, and this is a continuation of it. So I just picked the bit that.
So it's a resilient economy for the US.
For the US,
okay.
Not. I mean, reliable partners need to be part of that equation. America's industrial policy will increasingly rely on friend shoring global supply chains, which means financing efforts overseas in a friendly country to help make strategic supply chains in the US more resilient and less reliant on countries like China. That's where countries like Kenya come in. Emerging economies, including India, Brazil, Indonesia, and Kenya, are poised to contribute to global value chain in strategic sectors like batteries for electric vehicles, chips for critical technologies, and minerals and metal mining and processing. With their human capital, natural resources, and manufacturing potential deepening, US commercial ties with emerging economies have the potential to help American companies, and the global economy become more resilient against geopolitical uncertainty. Most critically, Kenya offers American companies to diversify their supply chains away from Asia while shrinking their carbon footprint. Over 90% of Kenya's power, which you had spoken about, is sourced from renewable energy. Kenya, with the help of the US and other partners, also seeks to become a hub of green-powered data centers, which you are not happy about, mineral and metal processing, and green manufacturing, including producing batteries and electric vehicles. Kenya has already emerged as a leading tech market in Africa, being the continent's largest destination for startup financing and home of the first semiconductor manufacturing company, which is in, I think, Dedan Kimathi University. that was a mouthful.
Yes, my take home.
Yeah.
Global. Is China part of the globe?
It is.
So can you discuss global if you're excluding China?
I mean, by virtue of the fact of the number of things made in China, including the iPhone, that should answer it.
Okay. So we should ignore such statements as global.
Okay.
Okay. Second, supply chains. What's a supply chain?
Things moving from production to consumer.
Okay.
That whole journey.
So in other words, we are still nothing else than a producer.
Are we a producer?
Primary producer. If you read there, if you listen to what you read, they talked of metal processing.
Yes.
So metal processing is what? It's a primary activity.
Yeah.
For who to consume the end product? The American. So what's in it for us? Has anything changed from what it has always been? We produce.
They consume.
They consume. I don't see any positive for us. And Kenya has no minerals. Which ones?
So what are we giving up? What are we giving up? What is in it for the US?
What is it in it for the US is they just slow down China's progression.
In Africa.
In Africa. That's it. The rest is noise.
So Quest's question was legitimate. It's just the president was crafty enough to avoid it.
Assumption is the president knows.
Do you think he doesn't?
I suspect, yes, I could say, unless he has a team that is thinking globally and is thinking 20 years into the future. As a politician, he has a 5-year cycle. And after 10 years, his cycles end.
Well, I think the president was in China just recently.
So we are unaligned. So we visit everyone.
Yeah.
We visit.
Yeah.
We have no loyalty apart from to bars.
But if we visit, we come back with something. I mean, he came from China with what? 100 billion?
For me, the question was, did we need it? Did we need it? And that's what my concern is. We are looking at, actually, we are literally looking at the case of the elephant and the blind man. Yes.
Everyone touching a different part.
So we are all discussing the tail and talking about how he came back with this snake-like thing. But then there's a whole elephant we have to ask ourselves about. This country is about the entire elephant. Can we look at the entire elephant and ask ourselves, was the trip worth it for what he brought back? If anything. To me, it's what we are not told that came back that is most critical.
Yeah.
Yes. So we need to watch at what else will be happening within the country over the next couple of months. We've already passed very nasty laws, which I would have expected the US to stop. Sharing of seed. Charging people for using organic fertilizer like manure and the rest. You see all this that builds...
That's nasty.
Yes, and it's gone through.
I mean, why will you charge me for using poop?
It is not allowed for traceability purposes.
For what?
Traceability. Because the Americans want you to supply them. So they need you to have traceability for them, not for you.
And that's the thing. That's what I'm asking. Like,
and that's what I'm
giving up. Yeah, so that is...
And that's the question. What we're assuming is what we are giving up is visible. It's not in black and white. You need to dig.
Because if you talk about seed,
yes,
you're talking about Monsanto.
Monsanto is owned by a Chinese company. So
now,
yes.
It moved to Chinese.
Yeah, the Chinese bought it.
and they gave us 100 billion.
The question was, one, do you need it?
And that's what keep going. So we have these nasty laws. Because why would you want to charge me for using my cow poop in my garden?
Because somebody says that we can't trace what's in your cow's poop and we want you to ship goods to us. And now we're excited that we need to export to America. Again, we remain a primary producer for the West.
Like we've always been.
Yes. So what was happening was we were being put back into our place as a primary producer. And it's been given to us in black and white and we celebrate it.
But, okay, so there's the poop, the manure. You're spoken about the seeds. What else should we be looking out for?
There are very many. We pass like 50 new adjustments to laws every week through Parliament.
What's the word you use? Who lobbies? How's the lobbying for these?
Now you're discussing lobbying. I thought you called it corruption.
I have to use the words you use.
Yes. Again, big business. The conversation here becomes, look at the story behind Bill Gates buying a lot of land. And what he was buying was what we call barren, native land. It's called, what's the word for? It's actually virgin land.
Virgin land, yeah.
Yes.
Never used before.
Never used before for commercial agricultural activity. Could have been used for trees and what, but not for commercial. Why? Soils in the West are dying. So very soon they'll need to leave their land fallow to regenerate. In the meantime, they still have to eat. So they come into Africa and they tell us to feed them. But with our methods of farming, which would only feed us, it won't help. So they need us to move to the same agricultural practices that have killed their soils.
This is mind-bending.
So that we feed them, but in the process we shall also kill our soils. So when their soils are ready to be utilized again,
we go beg.
We are going to beg, yes.
Are our politicians myopic?
Yes, they have a 5-year span which reduces every day.
But then what happens to, because government is beyond the politicians, what happens to the advisors, because I mean the president has
which was the same
barricade,
thing. Who built Curry's headquarters?
Who built?
Curry's headquarters. Monsanto.
So we're giving up
our future independence. That's what you're giving up.
For a road from Mombasa to Nairobi.
Yes.
Expressway.
For a data center, which will be obsolete in 10 years. And then we're left to dispose of the electronic waste. AI data density is like 100 times what we currently have. So when I keep hearing that story about bringing us, what they're bringing us is a redundant work. Is what will be brought here that requires huge amounts of servers and power consumption and the rest. What NVIDIA has done in terms of the revolution on compute, what will sit in 50 servers sits in one. So but yet there's celebration. I sat with somebody the other day out of one of the, but a Kenyan working for one of the multinationals, and they feel it's a very huge benefit. It's not. Those data centers will come in containers. There'll be no local capacity required, but for people to drive forklifts. But then you're telling me we'll empower our youth. Our youth have degrees. Our youth have multiple degrees. They're not supposed to be driving forklifts. Then you raise the issue. Doing chips. Do you know how long it takes to build one modern fabrication lab? It takes years.
Yeah, because I think even the US, they're not yet done with theirs. Intel is putting up a fab. Yeah.
10, 15 years to do it. But we believe we can do one at Nini. The guy is going to be told to do chips for using in radios. Because think of the cost of putting up that fab, and then what is it going to produce? For who? For which supply chain? Show me the supply chain. I know the supply chain from Taiwan. I can tell you how the chip will get designed in Taiwan, fabricated in Taiwan, how it will move to China, be put on a certain board, then that board will be shipped to the US to be put into a certain vehicle. I know the supply chain. What's our supply chain? What chip are we building? What is it for? Has anybody asked? No. To me, if they gave us money to go and support somebody like what's his name? He does speed governance. IoT something. Fellow worked in China for 10, 15 years in the manufacturing space, electronic device manufacturing space. He came back. He has built a whole plant. He takes in university students who can design products. He then helps them to produce them in mass and market. To me, that is who we should be working with. That's the same person who will allow me to go and do IoT in my farms because I'm producing locally. So if that plant that is being done, that fab that's being done it's in Kimathi, is going to supply him so that he can do IoT for farming, so that we can bring down the cost of production of maize, then that's the supply chain I want to see. I'm not seeing anybody discussing supply chains. I'm discussing chips on one end. I'm discussing data centers on the other end. I'm discussing a road on the other end. There is no linkage between these things. So what are we really doing? Hakuna mahali tunaenda. We are getting excited over nothing. And that is a problem we're having as a nation. That is what we need to address. Why is it we cannot see the big picture? Why have we become so driven by the event and not the destination? You read the document. What was your take?
The document aside. And that actually reminds me of the Silk Road.
Yes.
When the Chinese
rebuilt it,
it was really, you can see everything is leading to China.
They have a railway line from China to Europe.
And it's interesting. What's more interesting is how they were, we basically financed their vision.
Yes.
They just gave us loans and they convinced us that we need a new railway line.
We need a new railway line. And that's, if you go and look at the original document, was a railway line from Mombasa to Congo. Yes. And then across to Ghana. Yes. So for China is to pick up minerals from Congo, ship them through Kenya to Mombasa, put them off ships and ship them across to China for production. After they make goods, they ship them back to Mombasa, put them on the SGR, deliver them to Ghana, put them on ships to West Africa, to North America. Yeah. We were just conduit.
So we celebrate events. We get distracted over small things like the belt the president is wearing. And we miss
the big picture.
the big picture.
Yes.
Because no one is talking about the manure fee.
Yes.
It's actually new to me.
So if I feed you full of too much noise, then you don't have time to sift through and find where the actual activity is.
So what else? So what are we giving up? I feel like now we need to dig deeper and have a sense of.
Right now, you have nothing else remaining to give up. You've given up everything.
So given up. So to some extent, Ngugi was headed in the right direction. It's just that misplaced.
Yes. Ngugi still lives in 1970. The Kenya of Kenyatta. This is a totally different Kenya. His ideology would be wasted even if we brought him back. He's fully indoctrinated. Yes.
All right, I want us to move from
Goodies.
From the goodies we got from the US.
We thought we got from the US.
And but this is mind bending. This is beyond mind blowing. There are a lot of things also been happening in the country, as reported in the news.
Yes.
Before we talk about what's happening to the startup space, which I know it's something that you're very interested in, and it's something that you are actively a member of the ecosystem. There's noise around.
There's no ecosystem. It's an ecosystem.
What did I say?
You said ecosystem.
And you said?
Ecosystem.
Oh, ecosystem. Okay. Does this country always have a president and vice president problem or deputy president problem over and over? It seems like it's something we've inherited and it has become part of our culture.
It's essential to stop a third party from showing up. Yeah. When two bulls are fighting, the fight of the chickens, no one cares about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because, the way we report it, you'd think that these fellows have their disagreements in a bar in Kamukunji. Yes. The president disagrees with his deputy. How? When? Where? We've had this conversation throughout. From the days of Moi and Kenyatta, it was always an issue. Nothing has changed.
What are we missing? Because, you're saying...
What you're missing is that they occupy the space so nothing else can be discussed.
Because from what I'm picking, it's more than just a distraction.
It's a total distraction. There's nothing else. The fellows are joined at the hip as per the constitution. The only way Ngugi is no longer deputy president is if he steps down.
Yeah.
No other way. There's no other way. When Moi was vice president, we ran something called Change the Constitution, which was to do what? To stop to change the constitution so that the vice president does not ascend to the presidency in the event of the president dying. It went nowhere. The president died and the vice president became president.
Yeah.
For 90 days, we went to the polls and he won the election. Today, if anything happens to the president, the deputy president shall complete his term. That's the constitution. It's cast in stone. You want to change it, you have a referendum. No one is discussing a referendum. Nobody discussed a referendum for the 10 years when Ruto was deputy president, but yet it was the headline for 10 years. Seriously? We need to grow up. Tell me about how many cows were given birth to last week. That to me is news. Yes. Tell me how many elephants were artificially inseminated. That is news. Don't tell me about AI in America. It is not news. We have a serious concentration problem. Moi told us it was 3 weeks. I can assure you today, it is 30 minutes. We can't hold an issue afloat for longer than 30 minutes. How do we move like that? How do we progress? My biggest beef, your most popular radio show is Patanisho. Seriously. Domestic workers having conversations on how they fell out in a relationship with a village drunkard. But we are IT savvy. We are the love of the West. We have got silicon savannas. Even though silicon has reached its limit, now we are moving to look for new materials. So I don't know whether we shall rename the Silicon Valley and the Silicon Savannah. Short-sighted thinking. No long-term thinking. We need to get back there. And I'm hoping by us just rubbishing 90% of what's going on, people will step back and want to listen to something that's constructive and long-term.
Copia. What's happening with startups? Every other day it seems like startups in like millions of shillings, millions of it's just what happens? Where is this money going?
7 years ago, I wrote an article that talked about the Kenyan ecosystem that has been misconstrued to be an ecosystem. Some years back, a study was done. I'm sure you'll ask me to find it. I've looked for it. I can't find it. But I'll let whoever wants to prove me otherwise find it and come back to me and tell me I misread the report. And it was about the startup space in India and in Kenya. And the two differences. The startup space in Kenya was based on grants and foundations. The startup space in India was based on commercial entities, mainly companies within India, funding people to look into solutions to the problems the industries were going through. Today, the Kenyan ecosystem, as you want to call it, startup ecosystem, is nothing more than a charitable activity going on with donations. The 10, 15 companies that have failed this year, none failed because of a lack of market. They all failed because they could not raise another round of funding. India is launching unicorns as if they're Elon Musk launching rockets. We are see across each other, but we are galaxies apart. Copia was solving no problem, but yet was spending huge amounts of money. We now have 1,000, 1,500 young people who have been priced out of the employment market because they were overpaid to do nothing. Now they believe you can make money for doing nothing. That's an entire wasted group of people. The same thing happened when we had something called Andela. Same thing. Andela came into here, supported by Microsoft and Facebook and the rest, paid developers, junior developers, $1,500, $3,500 to do what? To write small little lines of code. They did not even know what they were building. They were building subsystems of subsystems of subsystems. Those young people were left hanging out here with rents to pay, with cars loans to pay back. We made no progress. But the worst part, we never learned. Today, the same thing is happening. Sad to say, Microsoft is setting up, I don't know, a research center or whatever. There's nothing they are doing here. Google are setting up, I don't know, as research. For what purpose? None of them is solving a local problem. We have enough people locally to solve our problems, but they are getting zero support. One, no one is listening to them from government. No one is listening to them from industry. Nobody is listening to them from academia. But one person pops up out of the West and makes a statement, and we all believe that he's going to solve our problems. Back to your Dedan Kimathi issue. What's a fab lab? What are they building? Who's designing the chips? Who's deciding on the chip? What are we building around the chip? The chip is nothing more than the core. What are we building around it? No one knows what their phone uses, but they know they have a phone. So fine, we are building a chip for what purpose? What are we going to build around that chip? Or are we going to build it and ship it out the same way we plant orchids and ship them out? Is that us? Is that all we can do as a people? If that is all, then really we have a lot of thinking to do. Maybe that's why we had so much time to discuss the president's plane.
I don't want to stop your rant. Keep going.
No, my rant is going to go on for hours and hours and hours if you let me. Because it's a waste. You talk of Sandy. You talk of, what's the other one called? Two of the others. There's one tried to do something with kiosks. There's another one. Somebody shows up and tells me they're training girls, young mothers in Kibera to write code. Seriously? Teach her to knit and make her make sweaters. Then go to the local school and force them to buy sweaters from her. And you give her a life that is sustainable. What are you telling her to write code for? For what purpose? Develop websites. For who? Yet we celebrate it. Are we serious? Ask yourself, are we serious?
The problems you're not solving, they're not ours.
They're not. There's some guy called Kune who comes and decides that we do not have gourmet street food. Sorry to say, bull. We have gourmet street food. I can take you down to Kirinyaga Road right now. We're going to have motura and gizzards. And necks of chicken. That is gourmet African food. Spaghetti is Italian food.
Yeah.
It's what they eat as the staple. So why do you want to bring me spaghetti?
I have ugali.
Have githeri. Now a white man comes and he receives $1 million.
$1 million, yeah.
To come and change us to eat what? Gourmet mutura. Gourmet mutura is horrible because they've removed all the feces from the intestine. And that's the flavor of the mutura. That's why mutura does not sleep. It must be cooked and eaten before it turns poisonous.
What is it like?
I got you on that one.
Yeah,
it hadn't settled in.
I heard it, but then I don't. I could be
Yes.
So, like Kamal.
Mm.
I think that's the name, right?
Yes.
The guy from
Craft Silicon.
Yes. He localized Uber.
Yes.
Would we celebrate that? Is that a problem we have?
We won't celebrate it.
Okay.
He has no funding. When he gets funding, $10 million funding. Then we shall put him on the headline. Shall send him to State House to meet the president. And we shall send him to universities to talk to people about how to raise funds from foreign investors. Yes. While we go and buy pieces of land in Kamulu and such lovely locations.
What do they call it? Holiday homes.
Oh, yes. When I was growing up, we called that the village.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to swag it a bit and say like elementaita view.
Okay. Well, we shall see how you get your holiday homes.
Because that's the thing that we need to. When you say we are not solving problems that are not ours, that's a very generic and strong statement. What does that mean?
What's the problem you feel we have as a country? What do you think we need to sort out now?
Food.
Food what?
Prices.
For who? For you?
Yeah.
Your urban.
Yes.
Okay. So it's food. It's
just keep going.
Production cost.
Yeah.
The production.
About the production cost.
The production cost of food. That should be our.
That should be, yes.
Okay. It's the same in Tanzania.
Yeah.
So I went to do a startup event in Tanzania. And the Kenyans would show up with PowerPoints about how they are trying to reduce the cost of transferring money via M-Pesa. Why they want to do it, I do not know. I've never asked anybody to reduce the cost of M-Pesa transactions, so I do not know whose problem they are solving. Okay, others are doing things about, I don't know, getting house girls to get jobs. Another one is doing what, and the rest. So the 3-4 Kenyan startups. Then the Tanzanian ones pitched. So one of them, they have built a tractor. Totally 100% tractor manufactured in Tanzania. It is grounded within, I think it's called the Technical University of Dar es Salaam or something. That's where the research is done. That's where the tractor is being, and then they've built an entire ecosystem, not an ecosystem, an entire ecosystem around the tractor. Because one, a tractor plows once.
Yeah.
Then what does it do?
Relaxes.
So how do we get to use, that's an engine on wheels.
Yeah.
So it's not a tractor. Yeah. It's an engine on wheels. Yeah. So what else can we build around it? We can attach a sawmill.
Yeah.
We can attach a mill for a grinder. We can attach, one tractor can change an entire 100 square meters.
Yeah. You grow the maize, you mill it.
Everything.
Yeah.
Now, that's the difference between us and most of our neighbors. Our neighbors are solving their problem. We are solving imagined problems. Kenyans need gourmet food. Oh, Kenyans can't get goods from A to B. We're talking of Nairobians can't get goods from A to B. But yet, every morning, 50, 100, 200 mkokotenis will leave retail market to deliver foodstuff to a radius of 10 kilometers.
Yeah.
But somebody comes and tells me, no, we need to do trucks. We need these trucks to be on an app. That's not a problem we are having. Our logistics system works. Because we are dealing with a 10-kilometer radius. That is Nairobi for you. It's not a Kenyan problem. It's a Nairobi problem. If you land in Kisii, who needs to move things? No one. If I land in Bondo, who needs to move? So this solution can only work
in Nairobi.
And only in part of Nairobi, between Ngong Road and
Ngong.
No, between Ngong Road here and Wayakiwe. Yes. That's the only place where there's an issue. You go to Dandora, there's no issue.
So are we having people traveling to the US and then coming and replicating the things they saw in the US here?
Oh, I wish they were doing that. They're not even doing that. It's a guy who has never been to Kenya who flies in from the US with a solution to our problems. A problem he has never experienced.
Why do we then one, I'll say they get the money because they have the networks, for example. But then why do we embrace it?
One, what money do they get? To say that the amount of VC funding coming to Africa is 1% of the total amount going into the VC space. 1%. Okay?
Okay. A drop.
It's not even a drop.
Okay.
It's not even a drop.
Okay.
Okay? So which part of the fund is that we are getting? We are getting the philanthropic part of the fund. The VC has no interest in making a profit. We've just converted our NGOs into startups. Change of name, same behavior. That's it.
And I want you to help me this. My understanding of the startup space is I come to you with a product, a problem, a solution, whatever name you want to give it, and say, I've tested this. I've seen a market for this. Someone is willing to pay me. I need to do this at scale, right? And I need this much to expand. I need this much to increase my production. I need this much to do this. And the person giving you the money is actually looking at it and seeing it as, okay, fine. If I give you this money, there's a potential. You break even at this point, I'll exit at here and all that. So like that is the journey in my imagined mind, and correct it. So are you telling me when Copier and the likes are making this presentation, what are they saying? You're going to impact people's lives.
Yes.
But what about the business? How are we going to be sustainable?
Grant business is not about sustainability. It's not about profit. It's about impact. And what is impact? Impact is a new term for charity. Charity is not about teaching you to fish. Charity is about giving you fish. Yes. You talked of Copier. Exact same model in India. Did the person set up shops? No. He went to people who have shops and partnered with them where he rented part of the shop space. He looked at existing transporters and worked with them to get goods across. So his infrastructure cost is almost zero. When you come to Kenya with exactly what seems to be the same problem, you send it to buy vehicles, you get the other guy to buy motorbikes, you get Copier to start opening dedicated Copier shops. In Nairobi, we don't even have a shop. I think we have like 4 or 5 shops that sell only one brand of phone. Our shops sell multiple brands of phones. So why would you go to a village which currently has 3 shops? One is a butchery, one is a salon, the other one is a retail, is a grocery.
Yeah.
You then go and add a 4th one, which is a Copier outlet for bringing in Kellogg's from Nairobi to Kabartonjo. And you expect it to survive? The Indian equivalent of Copier is about to turn into a unicorn. Does it have any space? The Uber model doesn't. But what does it do? I empower the existing retailer in a location. I don't try to replace him. Copier came in to replace that retailer in the rural areas. It was not going to work. Why? Because you are getting rid of a social component that shop plays. Yes. It's your social media. What you use here as WhatsApp in Nairobi, in the village it is a shop. That's where information is collated and redistributed about Dixon is going to be getting married next month. To who? To Nani's daughter. So what is happening when? Yes, I'm carrying a phone in my hand, but that's not how I get my news. I get my news when I show up at the shop and I spend an hour before I buy my sugar and go back. Copier refused to understand that we have a culture. We are a people with a culture. It's not about getting things from A to B. It's about how they get from A to B. There is a relationship from A to B. But yet we celebrated them. We celebrated Twiga.
Yeah, Twiga food.
I have been eating bananas in Nairobi for 50 years. They didn't need an app to get to me. And after Twiga is gone, I am still eating bananas from Maragua, from Moranga, from Nyamira, and there's no app.
Which is quite interesting because so one time when I visited Kisii, and you could see this. In the evening, there's a lady moving around, picking saga, managu, and everything, farm to farm, farm to farm, farm to farm. And then those managus will be sold in Nairobi at 5 in. Some will pick them from Mudhurwa.
Yes.
Go to their respective villages.
From Enna, from
Yes.
Gusi Express.
Yeah, and Enna is fairly new.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yes.
So you're saying we don't have a logistic problem?
But you've just explained to me how the logistics problem works.
I just want you to repeat it again.
Yes, we have no logistics problem. I will get a fresh banana tomorrow morning, whether the internet is up or down. I will get my saga tomorrow morning, public holiday or not. That is being harvested as we speak.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Nyamira.
You'll pass by the streets, eat your miwa, your sugarcane.
From Nyamira. Yes. And it has traceability. It has no chemical. The sugarcane grows next to the
river,
the cattle dip.
Yes.
So the manure from the cows goes straight. Healthy sugarcane with no impurities. Because that cow eats fresh grass that has no chemical. It is not fed on grain like the European and the North American cow, which is fed on grain. My cow is fed on grass as they are supposed to. Then you come and tell me about global warming of cattle. It is cows that eat grain that produce excess methane, not the ones that eat grass.
That's very natural.
But the Kenyan is busy telling me about global warming. No, I'm playing zero part. That is why I can drive a ice vehicle and rev it, knowing that that is my only contribution to global warming.
You need to be careful with that statement. It must be. Now, as we finalize this this episode, it appears that we are copying almost everything.
No, I wish we were copying. We are not. We are aping. You know, to copy requires you to go and know the source.
Mm-hmm.
To ape is to see from afar and to repeat. You see somebody jumping up and down and you think it's a dance. Maybe the guy is walking on a hot metal surface.
So
you're very slow today.
Okay, so I'm trying to get. Clearly, it seems like our politics, there's a problem.
Yes.
Our planning and everything, there's a problem.
Yes.
You know, like if you go to the US, it's the business that tries to solve some of these problems.
Or fund those who are solving the problem.
And it clearly is also a problem in this part of.
We get grants to solve problems. And the person who gives us the grant defines what problem we should be solving.
Do we have a way out?
Yes. Kagame has done it. Before you bring any money here, you explain to us exactly why you're bringing the money, where it came from, and what will be the return, the sustainable impact. You show up in Rwanda with a half-baked idea, you are shown the airport. You come to Kenya with a half-baked idea, you see the president.
You have the money.
Yes. But like I say, tuwatoanishe, tukule, lakini tuacha kujidanganya kuna mtu anasaidika zaidi ya hapo.
Yes. Thank you, coach. Next week, the next episode, finance bill.
Oh, that's a beautiful one.